Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Coffee Break. I'm Alistair Mackenzie, and this week I've got Mike Young with me again. We're going to talk about Venice, talk about some of the tips for visiting, finding hotels and things to get up to and do, and all this is going to work absolutely seamlessly because I've never been. In fact, we were just saying that it's for every travel writer, there's always a kind of an Achilles heel. There's always a hole, a glaring hole in your traveling CV that you perhaps not want to draw attention to. And in my case, Venice is one of mine. I've never been, so I'm going to be asking really dumb questions about it. So, Mike, you've in fact, one of you, I mean, not only have you been several times, but you've written about it in Mike's Travel Guide, and you've put in lots of tips on the site, haven't you, for first-time visitors?
Yeah, that's correct. We're actually putting together our multiple posts now. We have so far five posts that are complete that are up on our website, and we plan to put about seven more posts on Venice. So I'll give us about a dozen separate subjects on Venice. So it's definitely a starting point for someone who's never been. That you see kind of the highlights, you kind of see where to eat, where to stay, and kind of how to get around. So it's a good collection of posts that really will help the first-time visitor get there and get around Venice.
And video as well.
Yeah, we'll have some video as well. Right now we have one little YouTube video up on how to get from, it's a simple one, so it doesn't really go into detail, but it shows you how to get from Marco Polo International Airport to Venice itself. And obviously there's more than one boat that gets there. They actually call them vaporettos. There's multiple vaporettos, but depending on where your hotel is or where you're going, it would depend on which line you get. And they're all colored. There's like the red line, the blue line, and various colors. So, it depends on which one you get, you go that route. But it basically just shows you how to get from the ticket or from the where you exit the airport, where you buy your ticket, and how to get to that vaporetto. Not which one to get onto, but how to get there.
Now, this is an interesting point, and it's a key issue, really, and one that you and I were talking about when we were the other day, because one of the things that you feel very keenly about, and so do I, is that it's important to address people's really basic questions and fundamental fears about traveling, and that means doing it in some detail. So, as you say, taking people, as it were, by the hand when they get off the aeroplane, and how they get into the city, and it's down to the kind of detail I've often talked excuse me, I've often talked about the need to actually show people not just that you can get a tram, from here to there, but what you do with the ticket, what the ticket looks like. Do you give it to the driver? Do you swipe it on site? Do you not have to do anything? Do you have to get a date stamped? What do you have to do? And that's something that you're very keen on doing.
Absolutely. And, I feel the same way, Alistair. When I travel and I go to a new place, especially when I go to Italy, Italy is a fun place to travel, but it's certainly a different country than, let's say, the rest of the European nations. In the way they do things differently. And just as you mentioned, the tickets, I know when I was actually waiting on the dock for the Vaporetto, I purchased my ticket, and I wasn't sure, how I validate it. Do I put it into a machine? Do I give it to the conductor? And, certainly I don't want to be stuck in the middle, whether it's in Italy or in Germany or in the Netherlands, with having a ticket in hand, but, getting fined because I didn't validate it. So I share those fears, and that's one of the reasons why we include this on our videos and our websites, what to do with that. And if you watch that video, it actually shows a little line that, on this case for the Vaporetto, on this occasion, you actually give your ticket to the conductor, and they'll actually stamp it as you come on board. So they're actually there, as a gatekeeper, making sure that the people have valid tickets before they get on board. Now, the other Vaporettos, these are the ones, the Laguna lines. The other ones that commute people back and forth, not from the airport, but around the island, you actually have one of the ones where you validate. It's got like a chip put in, and you actually, put it on the machine, and it stamps it for that day. And then, you can be spot checked whether or not you actually have it. I have not done a video on that yet. I will later, but on the one I put together was the real simple one, how to get from Marco Polo International Airport to the island using the Vaporettos. Now, the other thing I'll say is that a lot of this depends on where your hotel is located. You can certainly take the bus. The bus is cheaper to get from Marco Polo International Airport to the city, or to the island. The only thing is that, you know, Venice, it's not one street, there's not just streets or roads, there's just these little walkways, and they're all connected by these islands via these bridges, and none of these bridges are ramps. They're all steps. So if you're going to have to bring your luggage around, let's say a 15-minute walk, it would be a real pain to do this. So, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, I want to warn people about. It's really important when you go to Venice to pick which hotel you're going to be in, and know the easiest and simplest way to get to that hotel. And in fact, I'd even say it's more important to pick a hotel that's closer to a boat dock than it is closer to the center of the city. Because you can get around, let's say, just walking on these bridges, let's say 10 or 15 minutes away to the center of the city, without being a big deal. But if you have to do that with luggage, the first night you arrive, not knowing where the heck you are, you're in for a bad evening. I can just assure you of that. So,
yeah, of course, this is a city that wasn't really designed for modern travel. But on the other hand, of course, it was a great destination for, you know, all those literary figures. It was part of the European travel trail, wasn't it, during the 19th century, for example? But then I guess those people who could afford to travel had servants to carry all that stuff up and down the steps.
That's true. And most of those people probably stayed at hotels that were near the boat dock when they got there. You know, I believe Mussolini put there was originally a bridge by rail put in, but there was no traffic to the island until Mussolini put it in, you know, right around World War II. And that only goes to where the train station is. In other words, you can take the bus, and the bus will get there, and the bus will turn around. And you know, there are some taxi services that go there, but it's only a small little portion of the island where there actually is cars. And you know, they turn it around and go right back. So for all practical purposes, there are no vehicles on the islands. It's all boats and foot traffic. And in fact, you don't even see bikes because the bridges really don't allow for bikes as well. So you're going to be there. All the porters carry things by two-wheel dollies, and you know, you can imagine how much of a pain it is to get things up and over these bridges. And on an average just to go to the center of the city from our hotel, we probably crossed 10 bridges.
Oh wow! Okay, I was just thinking as you were talking. I was just thinking actually, this is stuff I need to see. So I've just got up my Google Maps here and pulled up the here we are. It's the top end of. I'm probably teaching people to suck eggs here. After all, I am the last person on the planet who hasn't visited Venice, but it's up here at the top end. Here we are of Italy at the end of the Adriatic there, and as we zoom in, now you'll need to talk us through this. So I'm not clear where exactly is the airport then.
Okay, well, if you look,
here's Treviso.
If you want, I got a map on mine. If you want, I can pull up and use my arrow.
Yeah, do you want to do that? Okay, I'll
if you don't mind, I'll do a screen share.
Yep. I'll take mine out. Where is it there?
And you tell me if you can see. Yeah, I can see you. So if we look here, so you guys.
Right. Okay.
So the airport's right here, and the main island is this fish-looking island, or this fish-shaped island right here. And this is obviously Venice. Of course, you have Murano, you have Burano here, and then Torcello here, and of course here is Lido. But you know, this is where everything comes through.
Okay.
Alistair, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and start with the presentation.
Yes, do. Yeah,
And
this is something. Just so everybody, I explained to everybody. Mike, when we said we were going to do Venice, Mike said he put together a little set of images, a presentation in effect, because it's the easiest way to go through it. So that's where we're going. Okay.
and you can see the image now?
Yep.
Okay.
Lovely. It looks like the Bridge of Sighs, except it isn't. It's a small one.
Yes, it's a small one, but these are the bridges I'm talking about. But they're all over the place. They connect, because originally Venice was hundreds of little islands that were all connected. So that fish-shaped island was actually made up of probably close to 100 islands, and then they were all connected by these bridges. And now everyone thinks of it as just one island, but it's not. It's actually separate little islands all joined in, and they actually have names for these islands in the neighborhoods. And I've titled this Venice, a beautiful place to visit, but, and that's where it comes into, because a lot of people go to Venice and have not such of a good time because, poor planning and not knowing how to get there. And it doesn't take a whole lot of planning, but just a little planning ahead can turn, this miserable experience into a fantastic experience, because it really is such a beautiful place. And one of the things, obviously, that people have to look for is transportation.
Oh, this is Vaporetto. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the Vaporettos, and these are the Laguna Vaporettos. These will be the ones that get you from the airport. Another thing.
Something you said earlier, Mike. Let me just ask you. When we were talking about the tickets, something you said earlier implied that each Vaporetto or some of the Vaporettos had different kinds of tickets. Is there not? There isn't a single. You couldn't buy a city pass for 5 days and be able to use it on all of them, can you?
Yeah, it depends. There's different methods, right? So you can buy like a 12-hour ticket, but when you go from the airport, what you're doing is you're buying a direct Vaporetto from the airport to the city, and it's a different company.
Okay.
So you can buy like the day pass, but the day pass are for the other Vaporetto companies.
Okay. But, so this is like in Nantes, for example. There's all the buses and there are all the trams, but from the airport to the centre of town, there is a dedicated airport shuttle.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So of course, the next thing to think about is where to sleep, and as we'd mentioned, that finding a good place to sleep in Venice isn't necessarily finding a place that's close to St. Marco Square or where people are going. Really finding a good place to sleep in Venice has more to do with getting from the airport by Vaporetto to your hotel.
You've been hard at work.
I'm sorry? So
automated maps.
That's really kind of what you want to do when you find a place to sleep, is find a place out of the way that's easy to arrive to. And we were arriving, unfortunately, at 10 o'clock at night. We were taking a discount airline, and it was just one flight twice a week. And you really couldn't pick the time. The time was when you got there, which was 9. And the worst thing I could imagine doing, I'd been to Venice twice before, is trying to get around Venice at night. Because Venice itself they don't stay out late. 9, 10 o'clock at night, they're shutting most of things down. And in fact, you're going to be hard-pressed to find something to eat after 9 o'clock. So, you still there, Alistair?
Yeah, sorry, I was nodding, but not...
So the next thing is, when we talk about getting from the airport, getting there via Vaporetto, this is what we mentioned. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to buy your ticket. And you can buy your ticket at this ticket counter in the airport itself. But if the lines are too long, you can skip the line there and you can buy it actually at the dock. So there's a little ticket office at the dock. And I show this in our video. So if you go over to the video and you look at it, it shows you where to buy it. So if there's usually one Vaporetto per hour per line or per color. And if rather than missing your Vaporetto, if the line is too long there, skip the line here and then get your ticket later when you make the 7-minute walk. And then once you have your ticket, then you just look for the color and then you hop on that Vaporetto to your destination. So The next big thing about Venice, obviously, is eating. Eating. Venice is notorious for high-priced, bad restaurants. Most of the restaurants people go to are not good at all. And this is another thing that adds to people's frustration with Venice. And what we recommend is anytime you go to a sit-down restaurant in Italy, you're going to pay what they call a coperto, which is a cover charge. It's a charge just to sit there. And most places throughout Italy, it's around 150, 2 euros, sometimes maybe 3 euros. In Venice, it's usually 3 or 4 or even sometimes 5 euros, and that's per person. So you're in it
Wow.
already before you even ordered anything. You're already out 8 to 10 euros just at any restaurant you're going to sit down to eat at in Venice. And like I said, the food for the
Wow.
most of the island is pretty poor. Now, there are some exceptions, and I'm not saying every restaurant is that way. There are some good restaurants, but you're going to pay for it. But just because you're paying for it doesn't mean it's a good restaurant either. So our way to get around that is to kind of do what the locals do. And the locals eat what they call cicchetti. It would be equivalent to tapas in Spain. So it's these little snacks you can eat. You can get some with just on bread. You can get some vegetables only. You can get some meat only, and you can also get little sandwiches. This little place we found is a little wine shop, and they serve a nice array of cicchetti. But the other thing they sell is these little sandwiches. And if you look on the top right-hand side of the screen, this lady is preparing your sandwich to order. And
Okay.
the sandwich that's closest to the bottom of the screen, that's a bacala sandwich. And bacala is this kind of a paste made with cod. It's kind of a creamy paste, and you can make a sandwich with it. And then the other sandwich was a roasted pork sandwich. And these, believe it or not, with the wine, was less than 5 euros each. So this is a really
Okay.
a
And these
bargain.
you can eat in the you eat these in the shop themselves, or can you eat outside, or where's this bar that or whatever it is that you've got these plates on? Where's that?
Okay, this is outside. It was a nice day. There's right outside is where one of the canals is located, and most of the people were eating outside, enjoying their meal. There's a little bar inside where you can eat as well if the weather's not nice, but it's standing, right? So you're not going to sit. But the advantage is you're getting a quality meal, a lot better than some of the other meals that people pay 40 or 50 euros for, at a fairly good
Hmm.
price, and you're able to enjoy it and then move on and go about your business to your next destination or your next site. So this is one way, and I'll show you a few of these in our slides of places to eat. And if you go to our website, we have a page of where to eat and where to sleep in Venice, and it gives you all the detailed information, addresses, where they're located, what they're known for, things of that nature.
I was thinking when you were talking earlier that all of this is, I mean, the way you're describing it may sound last minute, but the statistics that we're seeing coming out now from national tourist offices around the world indicate that with the advent of smartphones and the like, more and more people are literally just turning up at the airport and then deciding where it is they're going to A, sleep, and then B, eat.
Yeah, that would be a big mistake in Venice. Sometimes you can get away with that, but this is not one of those places. You definitely want to prepare when you go to Venice, and just showing up, um, that could really, really, really be a bad experience for anyone. So I highly recommend not to do that in Venice. And in fact, I'd even go as far as, and we can talk about it a little bit later. We use this app that kind of helps out with this, but I'd even kind of plan restaurants, some of the ones that I recommend or other ones that might you find on Yelp or Foursquare, and really kind of find a good selection of restaurants before you get there, because you're gonna the potential of really getting a bad meal at a high price is extremely high here.
Mhm.
Another place we found was another little Cicchetti bar. This place,
Mm.
believe it or not, was frequented by Casanova. That's how old this place is. And you know, it's the same type of thing. You know, it looks a lot like Spanish tapas, and but again, it's a Cicchetti bar, and you can get away with eating here. Now, this is a little bit more expensive. I know Gail and I we did several of these throughout the day, and we got a small plate, and it was around and two glasses of wine. It was around 14, 15 euros. It's not too bad,
Mhm.
but again, you know, it was a good enough place. We certainly enjoyed it. It wasn't an excellent meal, but it was a good meal at a reasonable price for Venice. Another place we found, this is a little place, Pasta to Go, and they make their own pasta. You have a choice of 4 or 5 different pastas to choose from, and then you have a choice of probably 6 or 7 sauces, and they serve it in these little Asian to-go boxes, and a lot of people are eating right outside of this place. And you see a lot of Americans there, a lot of younger people there. It's a 5 or 7 minute walk from St. Marcos Square, so it's kind of in the, not right in the middle, but it's not too far from the middle of where everything is going on, and it's reasonably priced. So you're talking about maybe €7 a piece for a pasta meal, which again is reasonable. And like I said, this is
Mm.
not excellent pasta, but it's good pasta at a reasonable price.
And are these places, including Casanova's ex haunt, fairly central?
They're kind of spotted all over the place. The Casanova place was near the Rialto Bridge, but on the other side. The place I just showed you, the Pasta to Go, was just north of St. Marcos Square. And the first one I showed you was way the way over on the other side of the building. I mean, on the other side of the island. It was close to one of our recommended sites, or several of our recommended sites. But it's actually kind of more on the south side. And they can
Okay.
be kind of hard to find even with a map app because Venice doesn't do uh, addresses like normal cities do. Instead of having, like, let's say a street name and an address, they'll have that number. And if you look
Mm.
on this photo, you'll see like the 3912. That is kind of in a
Um,
range, like in a neighborhood. So the neighborhoods have
oh, I
numbers,
see.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you have to find that number in the neighborhood. So it's really, you know, you're kind of in this maze
Are the numbers laid out logically? In other words, 3913 would be somewhere next door, and
halfway. You know, you kind of go and there's some the numbers somewhat are logical to a point, and then once you know right the one you're looking for, no, it's on the other side or a street over or the next street. So it's halfway logical. You know, it's enough to where when you're in Venice, it's going to be an adventure, and you know you just need to relax, do as much planning as you can. Bring this app and an iPad with you or a tablet with you that you can get GPS data from, and you know just enjoy getting lost because you're going to get lost, and look at it as a way to see more of the island instead of just seeing the stuff that everyone else sees, which is St. Marcos Square, the Rialto Bridge, and the stuff in between. You know, you should really go out to the outset, you know, the outskirts of the island, whether it's the north or south side or both, and really experience Venice like the locals do by walking these mazes. And I tell you, that's where you're going to see these incredible views, where you're going to see these little bridges over the canals and these little boats, and you're going to see boats that are, you know, instead of an ice cream truck, an ice cream boat delivering ice cream to the local vendors, or something as simple as a ambulance boat instead of you know on wheels, and you see that by exploring the island and seeing things like the hospital and things of that nature. This little place, this is a really, we went there
photographs.
twice, and I'm sorry,
I
I
was going
didn't
to say,
catch what you said, Alistair.
looking
I'm
at
sorry.
the island, we're lagging very badly. Actually, I've suddenly realised. But looking at the island in photographs, it's difficult to try and see gauge distances. In other words, if you were to walk from one part of the island, maybe one side of the island to the other, what kind of time scale that would take. I was just wondering if there's any kind of clues on that.
Yeah, yeah, you know, you can, it takes longer. It takes a lot longer than you would normally think of it taking. You know, it could take you anywhere from a half hour to 40 minutes or so from walking one side to the other. not from the fact that it's just walking time, but it's also navigating through the island. It is a tough place to navigate, and if you don't have a thing like an iPad or an iPhone or some sort of tablet that's going to show you where you are, it's going to take longer. And like I said, it's really easy to get lost. But you have to take that in stride, and you have to really just enjoy that you're there and enjoy seeing it. So in other words, if you get lost, don't worry about it. You're going to come back around, but just look at it as a way of seeing more of the island. Now this little place, what's interesting about this little place is you can see the little meatballs there, these little fried meatballs. There's lines outside of this. There are people waiting. They bring these little platters of fried meatballs out, and they sell them for €1 a piece. And you can get a glass of wine also for €1 a piece. And this is an incredible bargain. I've never had anything like it. It's kind of crispy on the outside, but on the inside it's very fluffy and light. So it's not like this dense meatball that we're used to, or we think we normally used to getting. It's a very unique texture, and it's very, very good. And you know, with the wine, it's a perfect complement. And like I said, for €1 each, you know, you're talking very little money for a very unique, nice little snack. They also have the Cicchetti as well.
Beginning to feel really hungry now.
Yeah, and then one of the things to mention, you know, Italy is known for gelato, but that's not the case for Venice. Most of the places where you get gelato, it's just stuff that comes from the mainland that's prepackaged, and it's really not worth buying. And there is one exception to that. That's this place. It's Boutique del Gelato. This is where the locals go to get gelato. It's not too far off the beaten path. It's fairly easy to get to. It's close to Rialto Bridge, and there's normally a line, but we went there after we had dinner, and there was no lines. They're open normally, I think, to around 9:30ish, and the servings were quite large. They had some great flavor. I think one of the ones was pear and mascarpone, which is the top one, and I got the chocolate and cherry ice, gelato. And it was really, really decent gelato, comparable to other places in Italy. But again, you're not going to find this at the normal place. There's a lot of methods that the Venetians have figured out to separate tourists from their money, and you have to be really cautious in Venice. So the last thing, you know, that I want to kind of mention in this little presentation are the islands. And if you look, you can go, of course, you can go to Murano, which is known for its glass. You can go to Burano, which is known for its lace. And then you can go to Torcello, which they don't really have anything there that they make, but they're known for their church and basilica. The basilica was actually built in, I think, in the 900s. It's a very, very old church and basilica. It's worth seeing. It's a beautiful trip, and in fact, if you look at the top photo, that's Burano, and the bottom photo is Torcello. And these, a lot of people go to these now. It's become a very popular destination. I know when I was younger, when I went there the first time, not too many people was going to Torcello, and there was more people going to Burano, but not to the extent at which there are today. Buying or eating in these places is even worse than on the main island. So what I recommend is, if you know, I'm not pushing this hotel, I'm just telling you on our experience what we did. Our hotel, we were about a minute away from a grocery store, and you know, if you go to that grocery store, you can pack your lunch and bring with you to the islands at a fraction of the cost that you would pay on the islands. Because on the islands, you're going to pay 40 to 50 euros for a meal, and it's not going to be a good meal. So definitely, this would be one advice. If you go to the islands, pack your lunch, and you know, whether it's just fruit or whether it's you know, they sell here bacala as well, or you can buy sandwiches, or you can buy a pack of cheese or meats or whatever. But bringing that, you're going to enjoy yourself much more than going to an even more of a rip-off restaurant than on the main island itself. So just kind of going back to our website, this would be the address in which you could check out our website and go to that page for where to eat and where to sleep in Venice.
That's excellent.
So
Well done.
yeah, so it's a different take on what a lot of people do in Venice. A lot of people talk more about the sights, and the sights are important too. But let's see, I'm gonna Venice coffee.
So you're back. Yep.
Okay, yeah, but are you back now?
Yep. We're both back.
Okay. So yeah, that's the thing I want to show. It's real easy to have a bad experience in Venice, but with a little bit of planning, you can have a very good time in Venice. And this trip to Venice, we had an excellent time. We were there for 4 nights. This was my 3rd time to Venice. I love going to Venice, but if you do it wrong, I can see people having a miserable time in Venice as well, because you really have to kind of plan that trip before you get there and before you go.
I was thinking that we should say, and you may take a different view, but that when we talk about the high prices and tourists being fleeced of their cash, that you have to bear in mind. I mean, I'm a boy who grew up in a tourist board, and that's how the town makes its income, and that's with Venice it's the same. The fact is that's how they make their income. Being sometimes they are being overly greedy, but it's easy to go, oh, these guys are just they're just creaming us because they can. And it's it's not like that, because they
I agree with you 100%. It's tough in Venice, right? It's really a tough place to live. The expenses are extremely high. And, just looking around and looking at porters delivering products to restaurants and whatnot, I understand that you're going to pay more. But I know people in Italy can cook. And at least for that money, what you should be able to do, there's a tax for just being there, and all those restaurants have that. But at least what they can do is serve decent food for that amount of money. I'm not saying it has to be excellent, but if you're going to pay 50 euros for a meal, it should be at least okay. And a lot of places, they're not even making the effort to make it okay. And therein lies a lot of the reason why people get aggravated. So I think we can all appreciate that there is an additional cost just by being there and getting good style.
I mean, just having the logistics of getting, as you say, food to the restaurants and all that kind of thing. And then these guys, they've got to survive all year round. They've got to survive through the winter and when the tourists fall thin, and it's quite reasonable. But there's no excuse, you say, for bad food.
Yeah, because we all know that Italians make good food. There's a lot of even if you're outside most of the tourist areas and other cities, even in Pisa, which is a highly touristic city, but if you go just on the other side of the river, that would be the same side of the river as a train station, you can find an abundance of good restaurants that are reasonably priced. So they know how to cook. That's not an issue. The issue is just, getting a fair meal or a good meal at a fair price. And I understand that people there are going to have to charge more strictly for the logistics of Venice itself. And you're paying for something that's real unique. When you go there, it is a very unique city to visit. It's one of my favorite cities, and like I said, I really love going there, and I'd highly recommend everyone go to Venice and spend some time there before you can anymore. But you should know how to negotiate and navigate and get around to make it an enjoyable visit, not something that you're like, oh, I'm glad to get out of there.
Is it somewhere that you need that it helps if you speak the language? Do you speak Italian? I can't remember.
No, I don't speak any Italian at all. I just know the few words to say thank you. But a lot of them speak English or will understand English. They might not speak English, and if you ask them if they speak English, they'll say no. But they'll understand kind of what you're saying. One of the things I recommend is I never go to restaurants that show photos of food. I only go to restaurants. I try to go to restaurants where more local clientele are, and
Hmm.
I'd rather order something and get have a mistake on my order and get something that's good than to go to some place that has bad food and I get the proper thing I ordered. So I didn't have, me and my wife, we didn't have any issues at all ordering anything in Venice. Uh, you can imagine most of the population on any given point of time in Venice, the majority is not people that live in Venice, it's tourists. So
Mm.
they catered
Mm.
towards that tourist population, and
Yes,
obviously
of course.
they're real good at at commerce, at selling their goods to individuals. So they know and they work with the tourists. The tourist is their main industry. Is there really almost our only industry now?
Okay. Excellent. Mike, thanks ever so much for that. That was a really interesting presentation, and it's got me certainly interested. To be honest, Venice is one of those destinations that I've thought, oh well, sooner or later I will go there, but I haven't really put any effort into it or wanted to. But I'm feeling a bit more inspired now. So, so thank you for that.
Well,
And we'll.
we just happened to look at different airlines and see the pricing, and when we started looking at different destinations we were interested in, Venice wasn't on the top of the list because we had been there several times, and the flights were just so darn good that we decided to go, and
Yeah, we should say for everybody say that you live in Holland.
that's correct. That's correct. I live in the Netherlands, and I was able to fly direct from Eindhoven to Venice at a really reasonable price. And we were able to get our hotel at a reasonable price because it was outside the tourist area. It was actually, like I said, next to the hospital, and it was very sobering because every day we walked back to our hotel, you really saw the people of Venice in that area. It was a non-touristic area, that whole neighborhood. So we really got to see things like grocery stores, fruit stands, you know, um, merchants catering to the local population, not to tourists. And that was very sobering and very fresh, and it made us feel like, we weren't just there for that period, that we were actually living within the community.
Excellent. Okay, well, as I say, thanks for that. In your presentation, you've put the URL for the site for your site up there, but I will put that obviously in the notes for this video when it gets saved. As I'm speaking, I'm actually just quickly looking at the calendar because I was trying to remind myself. Yes, next week. Next week we're going to be talking. I hope, but it's been long planned anyway. To be talking about overland trips. In Africa, so that'll be somewhere completely different, and I do hope that everybody can join us then, and Mike, you too, if you'd like to contribute or even just sit there and ask questions, that would be
Absolutely.
that would be great.
I've never been to Africa, so I'll be the ones asking the questions next week.
Okay, excellent. Thanks very much, and see you next week. Bye for now.
All right.